The meeting will come to order. The time is 5:35 p.m. on Monday, May 16th, 2022. This is a regular meeting of the District of Columbia Commission on the Arts and Humanities. My name is Reggie Van Lee, Chairperson of the Commission, African-American man wearing a light gray shirt and a black and white suit today. Notice of the meeting was posted on the Commission's website, dcarts.dc.gov, on the DC Office of Open Government Central Meeting Calendar, and in the District of Columbia Register. I will now call the roll. When you hear your name, please answer present. Stacy.
Present.
Cora. Maggie. Juanice.
Sorry.
That was Maggie?
That was Maggie.
That was Juanice?
That was Maggie.
That was Maggie. Was that Maggie?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. Juanice. Rhona. Natalie. Kymber. Marianne. Mariah. I'm sorry. Who was that?
Kymber is here. Present.
Great, thank you, Kymber. I thought I saw you. Marianne. Mariah. Cece.
Present.
Carla.
Present.
Hector.
Present.
Jose. Gretchen.
Present.
Derek.
Present.
Let me go back with one short. Juanice, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Great. Has Cora arrived yet? Rhona? Natalie? Marianne? Mariah? Or Jose? We do have a quorum. So we will proceed. A quorum is present. This meeting is being conducted in person and virtual at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library in Washington, D.C. in person and remotely using the Cisco Webex virtual meeting platform. The meeting is being live streamed to the Commission's YouTube channel for public viewing. An electronic recording of the meeting will be available for viewing online following the conclusion of the meeting. This meeting is governed by the Open Meetings Act. Please address any questions or complaints arising under this meeting to the Office of Open Government at opengovoffice@dc.gov. I will now read the land acknowledgement. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We stand on the ancestral lands of the Nacotchtank and Piscataway people. We pay respect to the elders past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events, and to use such truths to guide the legacy of this Arts Commission. The agenda for this meeting was previously circulated. If there are no objections to the agenda, it will stand as adopted. Is there any objection to the agenda? Hearing no objection, the agenda stands as adopted. Next is the approval of the April 25th, 2022 meeting minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing no corrections, the minutes stand as approved. I'd like to welcome everyone. This is our first in-person meeting since the pandemic. And thanks to those who both braved COVID to be with us and braved the thunderstorms that were upon us minutes ago. It's clearing up nicely now, and I think we have a great agenda ahead of us and a great meeting. So thank you for being here. I'm going to start with our public comments. We have two speakers today. First is Yasmin Paraskevas. Ms. Paraskevas, are you here? Yes, we can't hear you. You're muted. Now you're not muted. Now you're muted. Now you're not.
Here, sorry about that.
No problem.
Thank you for having me, Reggie Van Lee, and friends and colleagues or other community members. I wanted to share with you this evening an event that I'm organizing. I believe it is of relevance since it deals with cultural heritage, the arts, and humanities. The name of the event that we are hosting is called Spring Fashion Fete, and it's an event that is being held this Thursday, May 19th at the Hotel Zena in Washington, D.C. It's an event that I am presenting in conjunction with the Asian American Chamber of Commerce. The event is made up of a pop-up shop and a fashion show, as well as a reception. There you go. Thank you for putting that on the screen. The focus of the event, the mission, is actually to celebrate AAPI designers and small business owners in the DC area. We have about 5 or 6 local women-owned, AAPI-owned businesses that are participating and have showed a lot of enthusiasm in this event. Through this event, the Spring Fashion Fete creates awareness around the successes of the AAPI community and celebrates local AAPI-owned businesses who have been hard hit by the pandemic. A lot of them don't have ways to promote their work or funds to do so. So through this collaboration, we are creating opportunities for these small-owned businesses during AAPI Heritage Awareness Month. Participating designers, as I mentioned, are primarily women-owned, DC-based, and others that are in the immediate DMV area. After the pop-up shop and the fashion show, which will be led by Mrs. Washington, D.C. for America, a native of Thailand, we will have other speakers, such as a woman from the Chinese American community who will talk about her American dream and her experience coming to the United States. There will be an MC announcing each design and the models that are wearing the designs and the mini catwalk that we have. After the fashion show portion of the event, there will be a reception where attendees will have the opportunity to meet participants, enjoy refreshments, and complimentary small bites by the host. The free portion of the event is the pop-up portion of the event where we'll have different vendors, and then the fashion show and reception are ticketed. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Asian American Chamber of Commerce Foundation, which offers scholarships and educational opportunities to members of the AAPI community. And that's all I have today.
Well, great. Thank you very much. And I'm hoping that many people are viewing and will be aware of this event and will support you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is James Williams. Mr. Williams?
Yes. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chairman Lee. My name is James Williams, and I serve as the Executive Director for the Environmental Technology Council here in Washington, D.C. However, I'm speaking before you today in my role as one of the co-founders of the Petworth Get Wise Coalition. Before moving forward, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. Chair, and all of the other commissioners for the opportunity to speak to you today. I would also like to say a special thanks to Mr. Patrick Realisa for all of his assistance in helping me be prepared for today as well. Founded in 2010, the Petworth Get Wise Coalition's mission is to utilize our platform to keep community members abreast of issues before the 4C ANC Advisory Neighborhood Commission that may impact their lives. We also sponsor community mental health, physical wellness, clean space, and political events that are aimed at building community inclusiveness and bringing about benefits to all community members and not just a select few. Our events are often held in collaboration with neighborhood churches, the DC Department of Parks and Recreations, the National Park Service, to bring about camaraderie across the broad representation of the District of Columbia. The coalition membership reflects the diverse demographic of the ANC 4C citizens. Our most recent community health and wellness fair took place on April 23rd of this year at the Petworth Recreational Center. Our partners for the event included the National Association of Hispanic Nurses, All of Us Research Program, Breast Care for Washington, D.C., D.C. Department of Parks and Recreations, and Mary Center. Many community residents attended, along with ANC commissioners, and we were honored to have Ward 4 Councilwoman Janice George Lewis attend and provide remarks. As a native of New Orleans, Louisiana, I have a strong affinity to jazz and the culture it embodies. Over the years, my wife and I, Dr. Tamara Jackson, have traveled extensively to see some of the best jazz musicians and vocalists of our time. As a resident of the Petworth community, I wish to bring a taste of this music and culture to the community. Unbeknown to many, Petworth is the home of a very well-known and respected jazz drummer, Mr. Kenneth Dickerson, who has played with the likes of Laurie Williams, Layla Hathaway, Phil Perry, Lee Ritenour, and the late great Phyllis Hyman. With the help of Mr. Dickerson, the Petworth Get Wise Coalition would like to continue bringing community cohesiveness and bringing new and exciting events to the community. As such, the coalition would like to have a three-part summer, sunset jazz, and art series where we bring 3 local jazz acts to the community for 3 separate jazz concerts, along with artists to display their artwork. Each concert would be held at the Petworth Recreational Center and would be open to all DC residents. As such, the Petworth Get Wise Coalition would like to work with the commission to receive between $10,000 and $11,000 to pay each concert artist. As of this meeting, we have already received commitments from 2 of the 3 performing bands. They include Collaboration, which is the official band of Mr. Dickerson, who I aforementioned, and Crush Funk, a brass band embodying the brass tones of New Orleans with an urban capital modern punk funk twist. The 3rd performer we hope to have is Mr. Herb Scott, Executive Director of the Capitol Hill Jazz Foundation. In closing, I would like to again thank you, Chairman Lee, and all the commissioners for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I look forward to answering any questions that the commission may have.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I was whispering with our executive director to make sure I directed you correctly for an opportunity like this. And we think this fits in our PET funds, our project and festivals funds. And so please reach to us specifically so we can work with you on how we might be able to fund this and support you.
Okay, I understand from Patrick that the grant season for this year has already passed. So we may not necessarily be able to hold these concerts this year, but this might be something for next year. But he also mentioned some opportunities where if the commission actually partners with the Petworth Get Wise Coalition, that there may be some opportunities to move forward this year. So I just want to get a better understanding, as this is my first time before the commission, on how that works. And if we have to wait till next year, what processes should I be beginning at the moment?
Mr. Williams, if I may, is the date on the poster set April 23rd? When is the date of the event?
No. The poster that I sent was just an example of the most recent event that we had held. What we were looking to do this year was an event in the month of August, September, and early October. We hadn't set those dates yet because I was under the impression that the time frame for receiving funds may have passed already. But if they have not, I can begin to work with our contact at the DC Parks and Recreation, particularly the Petworth Recreational Center, to lock in some dates and to let you know what we would like to proceed with this year.
Okay, so the Projects, Events, and Festivals program is open right now, and it closes on June 10th. So if we can give you, reach out offline and give you the grant managers' names and email addresses to get you started. But if you looked on our website, the grant program is called Projects, Events, and Festivals, PEF. That's a good place to start, and we can follow up with you.
But the good news is it is not too late.
Right.
for this year.
For
Yes.
this year.
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Not
great.
too late for next year, but it's not too late for this year either.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, thank you for coming to us. This is
And
great.
now it's my understanding that I am to exit out and go to YouTube. Is that correct?
I think
Yes.
our boss Patrick says yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right.
Don't,
Thank
don't
you.
leave us, just move. Don't leave us for good. Thank you.
All right, thank
So
you.
thank you to both of our speakers, both Ms. Paraskevas for bringing us this opportunity for tomorrow, or this Saturday rather.
Yes.
This Saturday rather.
Thursday.
I'm moved to Friday already. And
I think it's
Mr. Williams
Thursday.
for this opportunity to fund this project.
519.
Good.
That's the proposal.
As part of our collective agenda, we thought it would be nice to not forget why we are here and to bring art and humanities into this meeting as opposed to the normal business of the commission. Last month was our inaugural experience in bringing an artist into the meeting, and it got great feedback from our commissioners and others. And I'm pleased to say that we will continue that tradition. We have an artist with us today. Our guest artist tonight is Con Lê. Con Lê is Vietnamese American artist who continuously probes his personal and familial histories in an attempt to carve out a cultural identity for himself. He graduated with an MFA from Syracuse University in 2008. His work has been exhibited at the Huntington Art Museum in Princeton, New Jersey, the Corcoran Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., Vox Populi in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Honfleur Gallery in Washington, D.C., D.C. Art Center in Washington, D.C., Hillier Art Space, Washington, D.C., Transformer, Washington, D.C., and Arlington Art Center in Arlington, Virginia. CAH awards him an Arts and Humanities Fellowship Program grant, awarded him rather, an Arts and Humanities Fellowship grant, a projects, events, and festivals grant, and has acquired his artwork as part of the district's art bank collection. I give you Mr. Con Lê.
Thank you, Chairman Lee, and good evening, commissioners. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be here. If we can go to the next slide. Still a little nervous.
So you're
That's
fine.
all right. We're friends.
First of all,
That's good.
I would like to thank you so much. Came here 2008, been applying since 2010. I've worked from the ground up, going through all the different organizations here in DC and through your various grants, fellowships, and projects. I was able to make a lot of the work that I make that I call now, since 2008, that this is my home base. And as a DC artist, you have been tremendous in my own practice here. If you can move to the next slide. Most of my work comes from the idea of scrapbooking, the idea of collected image gathered together. Next slide. See, I grew up in the Midwest. And so in the Midwest, a lot of our family, the only way we sort of recollect story is based on scrapbooking. And through that process, I try to combine it with the contemporary art of how do we tell narrative and story. Maybe you can go to the next slide. Rather than your traditional artist going to your art store, I like to go to the Michael craft store. The glitter, the art paste, the stickers, the bedazzle. Texture becomes sort of really important in sort of my art. Next slide, please. As you can see, most of the time, I would buy bulk of jewels and just sort like these things out. And as I sit them out, I begin to work with all these images of myself, my family, and through the project grants, I'm working with Vietnamese Americans of DC as well to try to build a narrative that talk about the Vietnamese American sort of experience, not only here in DC, but hoping eventually talk about their journey here as Americans. Next slide, please. The good news is I want to start. I know that I don't have a lot of time, so I thought I condensed down my talk to just one simple work that currently is at the Smithsonian. I recently was selected as a finalist as the portraiture, the triennial at the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery. And so I thought what better way to sort of introduce my work and the way I work was through this sort of piece. Next slide, please. I'm fortunate to sort of work in a way where a lot of my image are coming from sort of my family. And so a lot of these moments that I'm trying to generate is through my work, is trying to remember our process as sort of like American and how we came to sort of this culture, right? You know, for me, the significance of being in the Smithsonian is that over the year, you know, like I felt living sort of invisible as an American, but now finally having sort of my work in an institution that, you know, like oftentimes as a kid, I go into big places and big institution, but then ask, who are these people? How do I relate to it? And I'm always constantly asked, how can I be American? And so oftentimes the image that are around us doesn't inform of how can I fit into that space. And so finally, next space, I'm in that space and my work in that space. And then finally, this is last year, I have a son for the first time, and to be able to take him to the Smithsonian, the National Portrait Gallery, was a tremendous event because here I get to show him his great grandmother, and she's in this sort of space that exists, and being able to tell the story. But to tell the story, oftentimes it required my narrative of how we got here to the United States. Thanks. See, oftentimes I tell people that I came from the Midwest, St. Louis, but for our journey to the Midwest was sort of like invisible. I remember coming to the United States with 3 other families, cramped into a 2-bedroom apartment, and we lived for several years, and oftentimes we were invisible to other people. When we had to use food stamp to go do grocery and the way we have to take it out, we became sort of very visible. But then we didn't want to be visible at time when we want to be invisible. And then at time when I had to take my family member using Medicare, we become more visible when we want to be invisible. And so the irony and the duality is always there. And I'm kind of asked, how can we tell a more narrative that sort of bring out and honor us as American here in the United States? Next slide. To tell about my family, we have to go back all the way to my great-grandfather. After World War II, French trying to take over Vietnam, we were a rice farmer in the countryside. And so oftentimes the French soldiers would put mines in front of our house. It's to prevent the guerrilla fighters, the Viet Minh, from coming to sort of convert us or prevent them from stealing food to regather their organized. So they placed mines around our field. And so one night, my grandfather heard noises outside his farm. He ran out. As he ran out, the mine sort of blasted him in the process. And at that moment, my grandmother became a widow with 3 other children in her household, having to raise acres of farmland by herself. Next slide, please. That led us to after the Vietnam War. As the end of the Vietnam War happens, people oftentimes have to take desperate measurements. At that moment, my grandmother's second daughter decided to flee Vietnam as boat people. So this was the first exodus of Vietnamese out of Vietnam. And so one of the things that sort of marked this transition was that a lot of my aunt and my uncle who were on that boat were sort of robbed by Singapore pirates that was around that area. And so they were captured by pirates and then robbed of all their belongings and then left us to sort of die in the boat. And so we end up getting rescued by Europeans shipping vessel that took our boat to sort of other islands such as the Philippines that allow us. So these were the first sort of journey, sort of traverse through the water from Vietnam to here. Now, the Vietnam War, during the Vietnam War, my parents, my dad and my uncle were captured as Southern soldiers. And so because of that, a lot of time they were placed in what's called re-education camp. Next slide, please. During the re-education camp, my dad and my uncle were placed to mine the ground, to sort of sweep the ground for mines. And not only that, what we had to endure was probably a famine in the countryside, in the farmland, because Vietnam was going through what's called agriculture collectivisms, where you have to make whatever the state demanded of you, and in exchange, every month, you get a small bag of rice. And my grandmother, in order to feed all of us, she turned the rice into porridge. And so the children get to eat first, then the oldest, the eldest, and then the women, and then the men. And so through that, after 13 years, my uncle, who served in sort of re-education camp, came out. He decided to take both my family and my uncle's family to flee Vietnam. Now, this was the second exodus of Vietnamese leaving the Vietnam. Next slide, please. In that, we sort of fled to neighboring countries. We ended up in Thailand, Bangkok. And here I am for the first time with 540 other families sort of gathered inside an abandoned warehouse for 8 months until the UN could sort of make paperwork for us sort of transition to the United States. Because if you remember, my aunt, who were the boat people who left, she finally ended up in the United States and having to help sponsor us coming over. Next slide, please. And as we came over, we began to sort of build a family, the first generation, me, the second generation. And then finally, we are able to brought my grandmother all the way back there over to us. Next slide, please. And so this painting is capturing her in the countryside, almost as though she's waiting and witnessing 3 separate exodus from Vietnam, 3 separate exodus of people who try to flee, to find security, to find safety. And in her moment of this joy, not know the irony in this sort of like happy space with all these shiny, glittering, shimmering from the lake, but then this moment that she lived with, having no idea whether her children get to live or die either at sea or transitional to the United States. So the piece entitled, She Waited for Her Family from This Point and Place. Next slide, please. These are the moments that capture not only my family, but many other families, including my wife, who is also a refugee in Hong Kong for 8 years. She entered when she was 2 years old, and she left when she was 10 years old. And at that point, she was asked to sort of send back to Vietnam because at that moment, there was no longer enough space or visa that allowed her family to come. And so there was a force to send them back to Vietnam. Next slide. I think a lot of my work sort of stemmed from moments in Syria, moment in the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and probably now this moment that I live with as I watch the Ukraine war. These moments make remembrance of what is it like, what fragment that is happening. But here I am, many 40, 50 years that have passed, a war that is ended, but yet still remember because of its name. But there are many wars, many people. And so in my work, I'm just trying to bring up issues that not only, even though it's a personal issue, but it's a global issue because it's never ended. It never ended because there's still war, there's still immigrants, and there's still refugees. So most of my work are based on these images that of us, we're in refugee camps, of us, but then with these textual, it invites you to come, take it a look closer, so that eventually I could tell you the story, just as I tell you here the story of my work. And so because of time, I'm just fast forward. If you can go to the next slide.
We only have about a minute more we can give you.
But I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. For me, it was such a tremendous opportunity. One of these work is now in your collection, but it's very similar to the work that is in the Smithsonian. It is the connections between the works that I make that allow opportunity. What you do and what you provide for us as artists has allowed me to grow here in DC, and I can't thank you enough for all the support over these 12 years since 2010. And so personally, I wanted to thank you. But you can also see my work on my website. I was going to introduce you to my work of, if you can fast forward all the way to the end, of my students, and also a collection of other work. We don't have to play the video. If you can go back one slide. I'm also a DC educator here in Washington, DC. As an educator, I try to engage students with the same sense of how do we look at portraiture when we capture portraiture? How do we tell story? And how do we use art as a way to narrate and allowing us to engage in a broader content so that we all have a place at the table to talk about who we are. Well, thank you.
Thank you. While we get to enjoy the work of artists, we seldom understand the context behind what they create. So we thank you for that, and we appreciate your passion around it. So thank you very much. Let's move on to the executive director report.
Thank you, Chairman Vandy. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, kindly as well. There was a really good meditation and reflection on history and on creativity that you provided. We're so glad that we've supported you over the years. My report starts with a quick overview of grant programs that are open. And so we have about 5 grant programs that are open. They opened on May 2nd. We have 3 grant programs and 2 public art programs that are open at the moment. We also have ongoing public art programs that are already open. And so they're listed in my report. I'm not going to read through everything. The deadlines range, they vary from May 23rd to July 8th. So all the folks who are listening to us today, if you're interested in applying to any of our 2023 grant programs, please start with our website. It will have a listing of staff members, grant managers who can be of assistance as you prepare your applications. We also launched today the relief and recovery grants for fiscal year 2022. These are for new people who have not applied to us before, individuals and organizations. And that opens today. It opened today. It has a short window. It will close on June 6th. We also, most folks attended the FY 2023 grants launch informational event or teletown hall on last Friday. We had about 175 folks show and participate. Thank you all for the good questions and the engagement. We have a lot of assistance in place, a lot of staff members who are ready to connect with you and help you through the application process. And so please use those resources as we prepare your applications. Our gallery space at the office has been renovated. It looks amazing. The lighting, everything is professional grade. An exhibition space that is really just really beautiful to be in. We have hosted a couple of exhibitions there already. We had a new one that opened on May 12th called Fragile Beauty. The theme is environmental justice, and we have about 33 DC artists presenting works there. This is a new program, a juried exhibition that we've initiated through a juried exhibition grant program. So we have peers, visual artists who serve as juries for folks who are interested in applying, and it comes together in curated themes for exhibitions. So please come through if you can. The building is open during office hours, government office hours, and the exhibition is free and available for folks to come and visit and walk through. Our 2023 budget process, we've received a number of policy-related recommendations from Council, from the Committee of the Whole, of 4 recommendations that focus, I think, primarily on communication and outreach to artists, communicating our implementation of the Equity Task Force recommendations, conducting targeted outreach to artists and musicians, in otherwise marginalized communities that we haven't reached before, to extend our funding opportunities. Another recommendation focuses on revisions to our allocation formula and taking into account small, medium, and large-size organizations into view as we're preparing the grant allocation formulas. And then the last recommendation is one to work with the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to formalize our recusal policy for commissioners that might be connected to potential grant holders. So these 4 policy-based recommendations have come through. We will begin to prepare our work and our response to these recommendations in the coming months. My last piece has to do with community engagement. We invited Mr. Lee today as part of our Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month celebration. I was able to attend an event at the Lincoln Theater with a couple of staff members who were there as well to support the Mayor's Office on Asian Pacific Islander Affairs. I was invited to speak, and there was a good community turnout there. And so that's a really positive. And we've partnered with them before, but year to year, we're sort of growing our partnership with most of the community affairs offices, and we'll do that even more formally through an MOU soon. We've also secured the services of Bain LLC as a public relations firm that will help with our strategic communications and marketing plan. And so this is one of the recommendations of the task force as well. And so we have secured the services of this firm, and we on the commission side as well as staff will continue to work with them to map out what our strategic plan looks like. We've also conducted since January a number of public programs, virtual public programs. Most recently, the themes have been centered on sustainable fashion and grantee designers. Thus far, we've netted about 500 participants online. I've heard anecdotally from people that this has provided a lot of access, these virtual programs. So I suspect even if when we go back to in-person, that we'll continue to conduct the virtual programs. Our last item here is to welcome some new staff members. Alexander Jamon, Jean Hissel, Crystal Sight, and Marcia Howard, who were with us a few months ago and have come back to work with us through the grants administration piece and also managing grants. And we also have a new staff member who has filled the position of public affairs specialist by the name of J.R. Russ. He has a background in arts administration and quite a lot of experience with the commission. So we say welcome to our new staff, and that concludes my report. Thank you, Jim.
Great, thank you. Great. Any questions? We'll go to the committee reports, and I'll just inform you that 2 days from now, the executive committee will meet for its first time. So at our next meeting, I'll be able to report on behalf of the executive committee. But let's start with the finance committee. Kymber and O'Brien.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. It's exciting to see the committee back together in person. I look forward to joining you guys the next time we're together. So I will just provide a quick update, Brian, and then I'll turn it over to you if there's additional details to share. Brian, I think, is sharing the update on the screen right now so folks can see it. I think the big piece is that we have 4.8 million, right, Brian, still outstanding that is still to be loaded in by the OCFO, but that should be happening in the next couple of weeks. And so that will bring us just up above 9 million, right, in additional dollars outside of our budget. So if you think about where we are in the year, you know, we are up 22% over the budgeted amount in terms of additional funds. I think a lot of that coming in from the delinquent debt fund. And so knowing that that won't necessarily be an additional increase that we see every year, but really being able to afford us as an opportunity to use it thoughtfully and equitably this year to have a big impact in the broader DC community. So Brian, anything you want to add on to that in terms of next steps and where things are as the committees begin to submit details or continue to do that?
Thank you, Kymber. My name is Brian Allende. I'm the Resource Allocation Officer. I'm appearing tonight in an olive suit with a blue shirt. I'm an Afro-Latino male. And what I'd like to say is that, yes, we have loaded the $9.1 million, which was the initial portion of the enhancement package. Subsequently, since we were looking through the budget, we found an additional $4.8 million, which will be loaded subsequently, as Kymber just stated. But right now, we are at $45 million, folks, from starting the year at $38 million. So that is quite a bit of money and more to come. So
The only warning to that is we can't guarantee it'll be that much going forward, but as we get
That's
extra money, we have a list of things we want to support that's in support of the strategy and the task force plans, et cetera. So we're doing that.
thank you, Reggie.
Yeah.
That
Want to
is,
clarify. Want to clarify.
That's right. That's right.
so I thank you, Reggie, so much.
I'm just repeating what you normally says.
But this is truly a testament to this commission, its hard work, and the director with the vision, the combined vision that they have with putting out as much money as they can possibly do at a time. We will do a yeoman's job making sure that the money gets out. And I think that's pretty much it with regards to the funding, but the budget. I do want to make one last comment, and it's regarding existing grantees. Please contact your grant management specialist if you're uncertain of the status of your grant, if you're uncertain of the status of any payments. I would rather have that conversation as opposed to it be a circumstance where you're unaware and the funding inadvertently gets deobligated at the end of the year. And with that, I'll just pass it back to Reggie or Ron.
Good. Any questions from anyone? Grant committee, in the spirit of we got some extra money. Grant committee, what are you gonna do with it?
And the grant committee's gonna spend every dime we have. Hi, everybody. I'm Gretchen Wharton. I'm a Black female, platinum hair, black glasses. Everybody laughs when I say platinum hair. But I feel a little lonely sitting up here because I don't have David and Terrell with me, and the grants managers, and we're kind of usually spin off of each other. So please don't get tired of talking to me. I'll try not to take forever. The first update is for the capacity building initiative. We had 90 organizations that have submitted interest in being part of the summer's capacity building program. I hope that some of you had the chance to attend the call that was explained, where that program was explained, and we had a lot of people come attend. Questions were asked. We tried to answer them all, but there were 90 organizations out of that that submitted interest in being part of the summer's capacity program. From that, we're going to have 5 different communities: creating an organizational access and inclusion plan, building an organizational framework for IDEA, developing a marketing strategy plan, structuring a fundraising strategy plan, developing a leadership succession plan. 12 of these organizations have applied to be organizational lead to shepherd each of these communities. Can everyone hear me okay?
Let's ask the people on the phone.
Right.
Can you all hear Gretchen okay? Anyone?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. 12 of the organizations have applied to be an organizational lead to shepherd each community of practice through the entire working process and the facilitation. And the results of this program should help inform the scope of the new capacity building grant schedule to launch in the fall. We're using this as kind of a trial to make sure we're doing it the right way. We don't always do everything the right way, but we're trying really hard and we want everybody's input to help us do it the right way. The second update is on the Relief and Recovery Fund for individuals and organizations. We had to put this fund in place over the last couple of years because of COVID and all of the things that were happening around that. The businesses, the individual artists, the organizations were really suffering. So we're going to continue it. 2 new relief and recovery grants are scheduled to launch on Monday, May 16th. Both grants will be open until June 6th. And we'll have a series of workshops to assist applicants in submitting these applications. The grant for individuals will be similar to the one that we funded last summer. The grant for organizations will be open to nonprofit arts and humanities organizations that are new applicants to CAH. This is new, everybody, so let me try that one more time. The grant for organizations will be open to nonprofit arts and humanities organizations that are new applicants to CAH and ones that are not currently funded in the FY22 cycle. That's exciting, everyone.
Let me punctuate that, because part of the work of the task force was to recognize the perception, but not the reality, that we constantly gave money to the people we already gave money to,
Right.
and that we were not giving money to new people. And so this is explicitly to deal with either the perception or the reality.
Mhm.
So we now have created a category of some decent amount of money
Yep.
to go to brand new organizations, new artists, et cetera. This is us fulfilling our mission around equity and inclusion.
Absolutely. Okay, budget update. The additional 9.1 million has been loaded to the FY22 budget. Brian shaking his head yes. An additional 4.8 million from the agency's fund balance has yet to be loaded to the budget. We just heard from from Brian and from Reggie about that. But we're gonna hope it gets there and we're gonna spend every dime of it that we can. CAH's resource allocation officers working on OCFO, that's the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, to have it loaded by June. And the additional monies will further enhance each of our legislative programs, the general operating support, humanities DC, facilities and buildings, and the 2 relief programs in the arts and humanities portion of the budget. Okay, just the draft budget allocations for FY23. Oh great, they're all up there. Just take note that we have a 51% increase in AGP, 41%. I don't want to read everything that you can see there, but for those of you who can't, I'm going to kind of skim through it. EOR, East of the River, we're now changing the name of that to East Arts, and 42% increase. A minus 3%, there wasn't there anything there in 21%, so in 21, so it went down. PAF for individuals and PAF for organizations, you could see the percent increase for each of those. So we're really, really pleased that we're able to give out more money in each of those specific categories. For FY23 GOS recommendations, there are 161 organizations, 9 panels, and the funding recommendations are being presented at our next meeting. We have actually conducted these 9 panels for the 161 organizations. So I feel really, really good that we've accomplished that much. FY23 project-based and fellowship grants, May 2nd, we're going to have 3 grants launched, and June the 6th, another 3 grants launched. For those of you on the phone, please look at our website and please try to tune in when we have the information presented to you about the grants, because if you have specific questions, that's the time. It's not just a listening. You'll be able to ask questions and get some answers right on those calls. So please, please dial in to those calls, and they will be listed on the, are they already listed on the site?
Yes.
Those dates are already listed on our site. Perfect. Okay. A couple of changes in some of our programs that we wanted to highlight. The Arts and Humanities Fellowship Grant. The changes are to provide a level of stability in funding so that artists can remain in the city. Continue to increase the total number of artists funded and engage deeply with the community to assess their needs and help inform the shape and focus of the program moving forward. The closing date on that is July the 8th. For East Arts, as I said, it was formerly East of the River, to expand the geographic reach beyond Ward 7 and 8, rebrand as East Arts with the majority focus east of the north and south of the capital. Remember, because of the recent reconfiguration of the city, Ward 7 and 8 have changed. So now it's not across the river is now joined. So we have 5 and 6 that are part of now, the original 5 and 6 are now part of 7 and 8. So let's think of East as East Arts. Okay. Prioritize small organizations under 500,000 and organizations that identify as BIPOC organizations. Increase CAH personnel commitment so that the scope includes grant making and capacity building. Now, we had over the last couple of years in facilities and buildings, I just want everybody to know, it was CAH, the commissioners and the staff who actually pushed forth the addition and amendment to the FAB legislation to include rent. And that actually expires in 22. So what I want to do now is look over the resolution and ask for a vote from the full commissioners so that we can extend the rent provision into FY23, because it does legally stop at the end of FY22.
What do you mean?
So that we'll be able to provide
That
rent.
stops. So in other words, excuse me, I'm just asking a question.
Okay.
So if we don't do that, then there are people who need support for their rent or their mortgage.
Yeah.
We won't necessarily be able to support.
That we won't be able, right, because it's part of the council's legislation, and this component was added to it because we fought for it, and we don't want it to go away. So we're now proposing that they extend it through FY23. So if everybody.
So asking the council to.
Because it's part of their legislation. Yeah, it's part of the written legislation for facilities and buildings. Originally, it wasn't there. There was no rent provision at all. We had it added 2 years ago, but it ends in 2 years, which is now FY22. So we want to keep being able to support people's rent issues and help them pay their rent and mortgage. So by passing this resolution, it will extend it into FY23.
Is it any way that it can become a standing thing that we do?
We can.
If I may, I'm sorry, Coach.
Go ahead.
What we do is we request the council to enact language that would suggest that it be in perpetuity for FAB, as part of the FAB cohort.
Right.
That's where the relief funding has been established for the language.
Right.
It should be noted that the congressional submission is generally in June.
Yeah.
And so we would need to make this request. Yes, sir.
Right. The reason this is here now is just because of Brian said, first of all, the council's already had one vote and then you have 2 more. At least if we get this voted on through FY23 with, I'm sure it'll be a yes, because nobody's going to go through it in detail and it's something that's an extension, I think we'll be fine. And then my recommendation was that we do the long-term piece. But at least let's get this through now with the vote now so we don't have to stop it.
In the spirit of full disclosure, some of us are concerned if right now we ask for it in perpetuity, it would prompt a discussion and
Yes.
that's what it says. So since we're so
Exactly.
close to the deadline, let's just get it in
Yeah,
for 23
Right.
and then take the time to position it appropriately in
Right.
perpetuity.
So we
Right.
can actually do it as part of the formulation for 24.
Exactly.
exactly. Exactly.
And that'll be in October.
Right, right. So it's not that far away.
Right.
Yeah. So if everyone can turn to the page that says the draft resolution. I don't know if people had a chance to review it when Jeff sent everything out ahead of time. But basically it says, expressing the sense of the Commission on the Arts and Humanities that in fiscal year 2023, a portion of the agency's grant-making budget continue to be available for grants to pay rent or mortgage expenses for the operation of a grant recipient space in the district used to produce or publicly present arts and humanities-related work. Whereas the District of Columbia Arts and Cultural Production account for over 11.8 million and 8.2% of our local economy, contributing over 53,000 jobs. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic forced 99% of arts producing and presenting organizations to cancel events and programs. Whereas the nonprofit arts sector has endured tremendous losses of earned revenue due to COVID-19 closures. Whereas audiences in many instances have been slow to return in full numbers after the reopening of the city, further limiting organizational revenues. Whereas the Commission's Facilities and Buildings Rent and Mortgage Grant Relief Program saw a 43% increase in applications this year, from 87 applications in FY21 to 125 applications in FY22. Now, therefore, be it resolved that it is the sense of the Commission on the Arts and Humanities that many nonprofit arts producing and presenting organizations will face a funding gap in the coming year. That in order to address this funding gap, DC Official Code 39-205C12A be amended to allow the Commission to award grants in fiscal year 2023, and that starts October 1, to pay rent or mortgage expenses for the operation of a grant recipient space in the district used to produce or publicly present arts or humanities-related work.
So do I hear a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve?
Second. Any discussion? If not, I will call the roll. You can vote A or nay or abstain. Stacy?
Yes.
Cora?
Present.
So that's abstain.
Yeah, I have three questions.
Maggie? Juanice?
Yes.
Rhona? Natalie?
Yes.
Kymber?
Yes.
Marianne? Mariah? Cece?
Yes.
Carla? Carla, you still with us?
I am here. I'm sorry. I can get to the button.
No problem. Are you voting yea or nay or abstain? Carla?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Hold 1 second. I'm going to abstain on this one.
Hector?
Yes.
Jose? Gretchen?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
The ayes have it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yeses and 2 abstains. 2 abstentions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
it's Maggie. I was voting yes as well. I'm not sure if you got it. I kind of went.
that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 yeses and 2 abstentions. So it passes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that concludes the Grants Committee report.
Good, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
I know that you're trying to look for a replacement of east of the river. We understand why that needs to be happening. But why are we giving it any kind of designation? Is there a west? Is there a north? Is there a south? Is there an east? Because what it really implies to me that on the history of this organization, meaning the Arts Commission, that there are, a lot of minority and small business over there that needed special attention. But I think that is a condition all over the city, that there are many minorities and small businesses all over the city that need attention. And I know that you probably think that there's more of a proliferation on it, but I think that giving it still that designation puts it in a category. So if you want to do a category that gives special attention to minorities and equity and all of that, then make that a category, but doesn't necessarily be a designation of East. Grants. To me, it's a stereotype. When that problem exists all over the city of minority groups, small businesses who need help from us and are standing and ready to be supported. That's just how I see it.
No, I understand completely. And right now, it's just a name. It's not a permanent name. The grants manager is the one that developed this, piece of it. We can certainly talk about it in the next grants meeting, not a problem.
We should have a full discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, I can actually argue, well,
Both
there
ways,
are
I
those
can
that are
too.
concerned that if
Yeah.
you don't identify
Mhm.
east, then you'll find people, you pick and choose in other
Right.
parts of the
Right.
city, and then you won't get the gravity there. That's people who on the east say that.
Yeah,
But I think both arguments are valid. I think we
Yeah.
have to talk through it
yeah.
and solve the problem.
I agree. So we can absolutely put it on the agenda for the grants committee. Okay.
Any other discussions to the grant committee? So the next committee would be governance. Rhona did not respond. She told me she may not be able to make this meeting, so she asked me on behalf of the next official member of the governance committee to do an abbreviated report. And the main point she wanted to make is, as we continue to evolve and enhance the governance of the commission, the governance committee wants to now start working on a commissioner manual, including many of the comments that people have made about ways that we can enhance how we are orchestrated as a commission. This includes onboarding and commission responsibilities. We could add a section to the manual about communications in several areas, such as meeting notices, staff commissioners working in projects, et cetera. So the goal is, there are many people that observe, they join as a commission, there was no onboarding. You have to kind of figure it out. And the good news is we don't have any new commissioners at this moment, but we may need to do an orientation for all the existing commissioners because we're not at the same level of understanding. So as opposed to just doing the onboarding, a manual that will perhaps have pictures in it, headshots, et cetera, more about the staff, et cetera. So the governance committee wants to take that as their effort to continue to advance the governance. So that's the main thing from governance. Any questions, any members of the governance committee that want to offer something else that I may have missed that governance is working on now? If not, I'll move to new business. And again, I'll speak on behalf of Rhona for the notice of proposed bylaw amendment that is part of the new business. When we revised the bylaws, we granted certain mandates to the executive committee that in limited capacity, they can act on behalf of the entire commission. When that was sent to Baker said that by virtue of, even in limited situations, for the executive committee to operate on behalf of the entire commission, those meetings have to become open meetings because it is something the public should be aware of. We've had some conversation around that, and basically we said, we're happy with executive committee meetings to be open meetings, but we now need to revise the bylaws to reflect that. And notice went out because we have to go through the process of notices in advance, et cetera. Posting went out publicly on our website that we would be having this meeting to discuss those revisions to the bylaws. So it's something you got already, but I wanted to make it clear this meeting that we are moving to have that commission meeting to vote on that specific revision to the bylaws. Any questions about that? Questions or comments, concerns? Well, I think I've come to the end of the agenda.
Reggie, this is Cece. I have a quick question.
Yes.
In Gretchen's report about the increase in the percentages of different grant categories, there was no public art. Does that mean there's no report at this time, or is that there's no change in what the budget amount is going to be?
The public art committee
Somebody needs to mute their line.
is that baby Cora on the phone? I think, yeah, that would be up to the public art committee. CC would not normally be in the grants committee report.
So not to put you on the spot, Maggie, but do you have a reaction or comment to CC's question?
No, I don't. We're gonna have to come back with her for an update on any changes, but I'm not aware of any at the moment.
Brian looks,
I can just talk about historically what we've done when we talk about additional funding or how we come up with the budget for the next fiscal year. It is a portion that is already designated or it was decided by the executive director and the deputy in terms of the amount. And then from there, they further apportion it how the committee That would be with Lauren and the Arts Committee, Public Arts Committee. So, although that information may not have been there in terms of what the actual dollar amount is, I think that chart that you had on the screen only spoke to the percentage
Right.
of what was actually allocated for grants as opposed to public art. So
Yeah.
there is a portion that is allocated for public art, and I would imagine that it's going to be discussed at the next meeting.
Cece, does that answer your question?
Sure, thanks.
I guess I should ask, is there any other new business? If not, I thank you all again, those who braved COVID concerns and bad weather. I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, so we're having the first open meeting. I mean, this is my second meeting ever seeing people in person. And probably in your case, your first. Oh, no, you're second.
No, you're second.
First of all, you're first.
Yeah.
My first.
Yeah, but we've been there longer than now. So are we gonna be doing this here?
So, stay tuned we are weighing out our options for where. This seems a good room. We have to make sure it's available and everything is ready to go.
What is different? I mean,
Sorry,
is this so much bigger than the room at the commission?
it's got the technology.
It has
And
better
the streaming
technology, but a
services.
smaller table. We need a larger.
But we didn't have technology in the other place?
So before, it was, we weren't streaming on YouTube, but this was before COVID.
Yeah,
you
this
know,
is
so
post-COVID stuff.
This, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, right now,
Okay.
yeah.
Much
Yeah.
better technology.
And if I also may add, we are addressing some IT issues as it pertains to the to broadcasting. Sometimes the internet is kind of spotty. As you might notice during regular meetings, you'll see staff pictures go in and out. So we're addressing that now. So as we get those matters resolved, in addition to Heran is looking into the renovation of the conference room. So hopefully this is a temporary solution, maybe a month or two, and then maybe we can go back to it. That might be aggressive, but.
But it's likely that the next meeting will be here again. I mean, I kind of like.
Yeah, the line is.
And I love it, but I just needed more information. I didn't know where it was, on what floor, is there the parking? So if we're gonna be doing that, help us navigate this next time.
And I would suggest getting a larger room. This,
If
if
we
all
have
of the
larger-
commissioners were here, we would not have enough space here.
Yes, we work on
The other thing too is, don't forget, we have the Octo room.
Upstairs on a fifth floor. You mean the Reeves in the offshore building where we are?
Yeah.
They're not doing, it's all COVID related. They're not doing, outside people coming to their space.
Okay, because they have
Right now.
a beautiful room.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll work it out.
Is that Lindsay Parker's shop?
Yeah, but she's not there anymore. She's our third, well.
Yeah.
One last thing I'll bring up, since many people have brought it to my attention. Oftentimes in our commission meetings, the staff faces are not visible on the calls. It's my understanding that it is the bandwidth issue in the office. It says, if we want to hear them, we can't see them.
Yes.
So once again, as we fix these problems, we all want to see each other. You have to look at me, I want to have to look at you as well. So we'll fix that problem.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Since we have a little time?
May I just say thank you to the people who made this work this time around, Patrick, Columbia, a lot of people pulled together.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, yeah. Fortunately,
So the next regular meeting of the commission will be held Monday, June 27, 2022. The time is now 6:44. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.